In today's video, I'm sharing 3 easy and delicious recipes. If you're new, I'm Amy. I love to share what I'm cooking in my kitchen, and today I'm making 3 recipes that were easy, didn't involve a lot of ingredients or chopping, and we really enjoyed them. I'll include the recipes and the WW points and calories in the description, so check that out, and let's get started.
I'm so excited to make this Mexican pizza recipe. I don't have any canned refried beans. I'm just going to go ahead and make my own.
Refried beans are very simple to make, and in my opinion, they are tastier than canned refried beans. But definitely go ahead and just use canned refried beans if you have that. I just didn't have any. But I chopped up cilantro, onion, I juiced a lime, and then I cooked the refried beans. So in a saute pan, added a little bit of olive oil, cooked up the onion, and I seasoned it with chili powder, cumin, garlic powder, and salt. And then I just kind of gave that a mix. After about a minute, I added in the black beans. Those cooked for about 5 minutes, covered. And this is a nonstick pan, and I only have like a masher that's metal, so I couldn't use it. So I just used the back of the spoon. I also did add a little bit of water, but the back of the spoon worked pretty well. It probably took longer than it would have if I had just mashed it, but it worked really well. And then at the end, I just added some cilantro. These were really good, but again, just use refried beans like from a can if you'd like for a quicker, easier recipe. I also cooked up some bell pepper and onions that I had chopped up. My brother's vegetarian and he was over for dinner, so I wanted to make sure I had something additional for his meal. But I added taco seasoning. It was a really good part of the meal, and you could definitely use this on top of the ground beef as well. So I cooked ground beef. I just kind of used a paper towel in the pan to kind of drain out any of the extra fat. This was 90-10, but sometimes I still get some fat. I used a homemade taco seasoning, so I added a couple of tablespoons of that along with a little bit of water so I could just kind of simmer it on low for a few minutes to get those kind of flavors melded in there. And I will link the taco seasoning recipe below. It is really good. Now it's time to put these ingredients together to make the Mexican pizzas. So I just sprayed some corn tortillas with a little bit of olive oil, and I baked them in the oven, and I just wanted them to be crispy. You could also use the air fryer. We did decide that I should have baked these a little bit longer so they were a little bit crispier, but I just added the topping. So this part's really easy. I just did the ground beef, the refried beans, topped it with another tortilla, added some enchilada sauce. I just used store-bought enchilada sauce, and then I topped that with some cheese. For the non-meat ones, I just used the refried beans, those sauteed pepper and onion, and then the tortilla, and then the same toppings. So it was really, really tasty. I actually loved this recipe. I will definitely leave all of the recipes in the description. I will include all of the WW points and the calories, so you can go ahead and check that out. But we all loved this meal. It was really tasty. It was very filling. I topped it with a little bit of chopped up cherry tomato. Really good.
Here's what I've got going for dinner tonight. I'm doing Mongolian beef. I have this shaved beef from Trader Joe's. You can get it anywhere. I have trouble finding it at other stores, but I can always find it at Trader Joe's, at least normally. And I don't have scallions or green onions, but I do have chives from the garden, so I'm going to go ahead and use those. I just rinsed them and chopped them up. And then for seasonings, this is garlic and ginger. You can use fresh if you have it. I don't have any right now. Cornstarch and brown sugar. And then I'm going to serve this with rice and green beans. So I'm going to show you how this all comes together now. To get started, I'm just going to make the sauce first. So I'm going to add about 2 teaspoons of olive oil to the pan. Since I'm not using fresh garlic or ginger, I'm just going to go ahead and add everything at once. So I actually forgot to show you this earlier, but that is tamari, You could use soy sauce or low sodium soy sauce or coconut aminos or anything like that. I just like tamari. And I'll link the original recipe below, but I'm just gonna add garlic and ginger. I'm not gonna specifically measure it. And then the sugar, I'm using about half brown sugar and half monk fruit sweetener. And then I'm just gonna cook this until it starts to thicken a little bit. And I'm just gonna do everything in one pot. So I'll take the sauce out, I'll cook up the beef, and then I'll put the sauce and the beef in together. And this isn't in the original recipe, but I am gonna add a little bit of pepper as well.
I also added in a little bit of sriracha just for a little bit of extra heat.
One thing that is really convenient about this recipe is now that I'm working on the beef, it already comes in this plastic container. So I am just gonna put the cornstarch on the beef in the container that I bought it. So that's really nice. So the sauce is simmering away and I'm giving it just a few minutes. I'm gonna go ahead and coat this beef. I'm just coating it in cornstarch, that's all. Now I'm just gonna lay the beef, giving it a little bit of space. I don't wanna overcrowd it. And I did add a tiny bit of oil to the pan. The recipe calls for 2 tablespoons, but I don't wanna add that much oil. Just add a tiny bit. All the meat is cooked, so I'm gonna go ahead and add the sauce back to the pan. And I'm gonna add the meat back in. And then I just want the meat to get coated in that sauce. And I'm hoping the cornstarch on the meat will thicken up the sauce a little bit more. I do want to say that if you have like silicone tongs, something that you can use on a nonstick pan, if that's what you're using, I would definitely recommend using that for this beef. It was a lot harder to flip over with a spoon just because the pieces are pretty small and I wanted them to be spaced out. But this smells so delicious already. I am just going to serve this with microwave rice. I cooked green beans up last night and I just microwaved them. They were like microwave in a bag green beans, and then I also sauteed them in a tiny bit of olive oil, sesame oil, tamari, garlic, and a tiny bit of mayo just at the end. And I'm gonna have that with it, and that's gonna be dinner. So this is just so easy. I can see the sauce is getting a bit thicker, so I'm actually just gonna say this is done and I can't wait to try it. I will let you know how it is.
We all really enjoyed this meal. The one thing I would say is that I did use half the amount of beef that I should have. So I thought the sauce was too strong of a flavor. It was too sweet, but I think it would be really good if you use the correct ratios and maybe just kind of start with a little bit less sugar. But it was really, really tasty. I loved the texture. I loved the flavor. Tonight for dinner, I'm going to be making a really easy and delicious sounding pasta recipe. So I'm using farfalle, salt, pepper, olive oil, chopping up some zucchini. I'm using garlic, ground garlic, but you could use like fresh garlic. Oregano, I was supposed to put parsley in there, but I don't have any fresh parsley or even dried parsley. And then Gruyere. I was going to try and lighten it up with just some like whipped cream cheese, but I didn't have any and I thought I would just do Gruyere, but you definitely could lighten it up if you would like. I took some fresh basil from our plant and I put the pasta in the water, chopped up the zucchini, grated that Gruyere cheese. I actually love Gruyere. I think it has really great, sharp flavor. So then I put a little bit of olive oil in the pan, and I'm just going to quickly saute up these zucchini pieces that I cut up. And I just wanted them to get brown, have some really good flavor, a nice kind of texture, but still be soft for the pasta. So then I just combined everything. I put the pasta in the pan, and then I added the seasonings, and I would say, make sure not to go too light on the seasonings. I added in all of that cheese. Again, this cheese is just so delicious, and I hardly ever use it. It is a more pricey cheese. I put in some pasta water that I saved when I was draining the pasta. I gave it a little mix, added in that Gruyere. This recipe is so, so easy, but honestly, we all loved it. Even my kids loved it. I would say you could add more zucchini if you'd like. I only used the one, but you could definitely use more. But this was a really delicious recipe. And again, lighten it up if you'd like. Use different pasta, use different cheese. I do think if you used half Gruyere, half whipped cream cheese, that would be really, really tasty. Or even low-fat cream cheese. That's it for this video. I have been sick, so I could not put out a video last week, But if you do like this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe. I will see you next week. Bye.